Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you very much, and you did a great job. And welcome to all of our members that are on our call today. Thank you very much for joining our chamber as we try to get through this together, as we share the information we learn as quick as we learn it. We're trying to be nimble for you, and that's why we're bringing you this information. I do want to recognize my team and staff that put this together so quickly. So you've got Courtney running our show today, Matt is leading our facilitation, and Candace is running behind the scenes. Our staff is working very hard right now, and I certainly just want to appreciate them for keeping up with all the changes that our community is going through right now. We are going to be talking about those on the call today should be people who are just concerned about the reopen process. Do you have your risk analysis straight? Do you really understand what you're being asked to do? Are you covering yourself so that you can open up safely? So that is what we're going to talk about today. And we've got some special treats for you as well, some opportunities for you to actually get really good information about your business from this as well. So stick around. John's going to do a great job of helping you guys understand what WWW is offering for us, as well as the community. So I do want to also mention that because of your investment into us these last few years, we have been able to invest in our organization, and maybe that's why we're up and running right now. While we had to take the same cuts that every other business has had to, and we've had to furlough our people, and we're working on a shoestring right now. It's not just the chamber. The chamber represents quite a few entities in this community that are all on the same page, all delivering these services that I'm going to discuss today. So that is our Grow Smarter team, that is our Chamber of Commerce, that is our Greenhouse team, and that is our EDC team. So when I speak, I'm speaking, I just have the privilege of speaking for all those organizations as they work to help our businesses grow. So next slide, let's get started. We are opening up. Maybe you have started to see these posters. Maybe you have started to feel it. Maybe you are open up. We are starting that process right now. We started on Monday with the governor's orders. The whole issue for the St. Pete Chamber of Commerce right now is we are only going to promote opening if it's in a safe environment. We do not want to take the risk. If you were on my call last week, you saw just the pure risk of us doing nothing or doing it incorrectly and pretending like we don't have to do anything, that we can ignore these rules. And it means our economy could be harmed for over 4 or 5 years if we go back and do this incorrectly. So why we're taking such time with everybody on their risk and understanding these behaviors is this is about everybody in our community. So we are trying to promote our community as opening the St. Pete way, which means that you care, I care about every employee, every customer in this community, and we're starting to see that happen. Next slide. What I want to promise to you is I'm not going to be just a cheerleader for business sake without the health of my community. You know, I've got a family that lives here. You know, I've got a small business with my wife here. My kids go to school here. I want to live here the rest of my life. So everything we do is about the long-term safety of every one of you. So I am not here just to say, let's get open, let's do it safely. So what we are working on is creating a dashboard for you. Last week, we talked about how data needs to drive every conversation. We've started that with the help of the Florida Chamber of Commerce. They've helped us put together a COVID dashboard as well as just our current dashboard. I want to draw your attention to if you see green on this dashboard for Pinellas County, it means we're heading in the right direction. If you see red, it means we're heading in the wrong direction. And so up here, the numbers that I really want you to cue on, and if you're leading a business right now, we're going to share this with you. I want you to share it with other people, your neighbors, your employees, your customers, to talk about when we get into the debate about the numbers. Here is your numbers for Pinellas County. We know that this is the number that the mayor is looking at. He asked us to keep the percent of positive cases to under 6%. And right now we continue to decrease at 4.8%. That is a favorable number. Now we just reopened part of our economy on Monday. We're going to be watching that number every day, and we want to make sure that we keep it that way. So that is just like watching the gas in your gas tank. If you're on a drive, you want to make sure you're keeping it at that number. This too is the second number we're watching very carefully. This is that 14-day average you've heard about on the media. Again, we're showing signs of a decrease. That number at 11.1 is lower than it's been in a long time. It used to average around 12, and at one point it was up to 14 and 15 at our high point. Now it's gone down to 11. Doesn't mean it won't rise back up if we don't create good behaviors. So I want you guys to know that we as a chamber and as a business community working with your government officials who care about you are watching these numbers, and I want you to too. It's got to be your responsibility. It can't be just mine. I want to put a little bit of sunshine in your day-to-day. I know this doesn't make any sense, but believe it or not, even though we had 8,247 people file for unemployment just this week in Pinellas County, the net job growth over year change is still a positive number. Believe it or not, that's because our economy has cranked. Now, next month, when I show you this, or 2 weeks from now, this probably will be red because enough of these people, unemployment claims will have caught up to the system and we'll start to see it. But right now, at least we understand that. So I wanted to share that with you all as an understanding of how and why we're going, why we feel like it's important for you guys to know we're going forward, opening up, but we're going to do it very, very safe. Next slide. And so what I wanted to show on this slide is that this is just that a 14-day average. And now you have the ability to download this information too when we make it available to you. So you can have a quick conversation with anybody about when we hit our peak. You can see where it is in this April time frame and how we've steadily gone down. And this is a 14-day average. So it literally does take it's a weighted running average of those 14 days to get you to that number. So this is what the trend is. This is why we feel like if we reopen safely, we can continue on. Please, next slide. So you've heard why it's important for us to maintain our safety. It's about each human that we care about in our community. It is about our economy as well, so that we can continue to live the lives we all want to live here in the beautiful Sunshine City. So we are stressing safety first. When we began to say, we created our navigator system to assist us with you. And I'd like to, if it's the next slide, I hope, is, okay, let me give you one other one. So I wanted to make sure before we talk about reopen and we get John on about the guidelines, I wanted to share with you the Chamber's guidelines, because I think it's important that you understand a business like mine, which isn't a restaurant, right? But how we're looking at these things and how we follow how we're trying to follow guidelines and we're learning about it. So this is just my plan, just a page of my plan that I presented to our board today. We're making sure we follow the CDC guidelines, the governor's guidelines, and county city guidelines. We know that on May 4th, Florida and Pinellas began to open phase 1. It really in there very clearly states remote work continues. So we are saying right now our tentative phase 1 open is May 18th. And that's only if the metrics allow, the governor allows, and the county and mayor allow us to go to that next phase. That's officially what they called phase 2. And that's where you bring employees back to the office. Those are folks that we have sheltered in place right now, but can begin to come back. We aren't going to start that till a minimum of May 18th, and only if I know that every one of my employees that might be vulnerable population or might be living with someone that's vulnerable has a plan that how I can keep them employed and keep them working from home. And that we aren't going to be opening any of those common areas. We still aren't going to be grouping in groups. We are still not going to have those face-to-face meetings with you all. We're going to do this just as everyone has asked us to do, slowly, slowly, slowly. And that's what we're hoping you all do as well. So those are our guidelines. I will share those with you. That number 5 and that 2 underneath that, that's where the real conversations happen about what are we going to do? Who's going to share staplers? Who's going to come in? We're talking about coming in shifts, odd and even shifts, just so in case anybody gets ill in the odd shift, the even shift at least knows they have a full team to handle whatever is coming. So we're working on all those. You're going to hear about some of that today. If you haven't started yet, you obviously need to get these communicated to your employees and then to your support team of your lawyers, accountants, and insurance folks to make sure you're ready to do that as well. Next slide. So now we lead to what John is going to present to you. It is a partnership with all the organizations you see listed on the screen, but it's about our business resiliency team as well. If you reach out to us after this and say, hey, I want to be part, I need a business resiliency team around me. I want your services. The information you're going to get from John today, they'll be able to actually customize it for you, put it into the system, and John's company will actually provide you a readout for your organization. So that is a pretty nice deal. That's a pretty awesome opportunity from a great local company here in St. Pete to get you going. But you have to let us know you want that. So you see the information on the screen. You can see how to get a hold of us by brt@growsmarterstpete.com. We have a phone number, 727-351-3249, or you see a website address listed as well. We need you to register and get associated there so we can start getting you the tools. And oh, by the way, if you are lucky because you're a chamber member, and we thank you for that, we appreciate it. If you know of members of the community that for whatever reason didn't choose to be a chamber member, let's help them out as well. So we're going to ask them to be part of this as well. So please get them involved. We'll go find them next year when we're ready to go sell ourselves again that we created value, but we're trying to help everybody right now, and I hope you can spread the word for us. So what John's going to do is help you understand what his firm does every day, but also how now they can offer these things to you and what things you should be thinking about as you reopen St. Pete. John Hammond is awesome. He's a COO of WWW. WWW, for those of you in the community who know the story, is a love affair of quite a few great founders of St. Pete, the leaders of our community back in the 20s that were doing the things that we fell in love with, that we're living with. They created them. So this is a legacy organization for us. They're the ones that provide us our insurance guidance and risk management as well. John, I know you're not visible, but your slides will be welcome, and please join us and help our members understand what you can provide.
Thank you, Chris. I definitely appreciate the opportunity today for us to share our knowledge and resources with the greater community. Again, those that are maybe not familiar, Wallace, Welch Willingham is an insurance and risk management agency. Our founders started this company in 1925, and today we've grown to over 10,000 clients and consulting for 2,000 commercial businesses. Next slide. So just real quick disclaimer, today is just information's presentations meant to be informational and educational. This threat's new and it's rapidly changing. So we hope to keep you up to date with changes, but I just wanted to make that disclaimer out there today. Next slide. So everyone knows on this call that businesses are facing wide-ranging challenges to remain viable today. So today I'm going to discuss the importance of risk mitigation related to COVID-19. You're all fighting against a virus that you can't see or avoid. And what I mean by void in risk management, if you choose to open or reopen, you can't avoid it. So that makes it extremely challenging to deal with as a business. The effects of that decision to be open or reopen put your business at risk. Your employees can get ill from this. You can possibly be the reason why the general public gets ill from your operations. There might be financial injury to your stakeholders and reputational damage to your business. And that little asterisk right there, I mean, we use the word illness, but everybody knowing this illness can result in death, which makes it even worse. Next slide. So for every business, you kind of have to weigh the financial losses versus the risk of illness in making this decision to reopen. Every business wants to reopen. You want to bring your employees back. You want to resume your sales so that you can cover those fixed expenses and the operational expenses and, dare I say it, make a profit. The demand for your products and services from the public, the public wants to come out, just myself. I want to eat at a restaurant. I desperately want a haircut. I need to get my car maintenance, tires, oil change, car wash, all that stuff. And I'd like to buy goods locally, not off Amazon if I could. So, there's demand. People want to get back into the public. You combine those two, though, and it just creates a difficult dilemma for you. Not opening can sink your business. And unfortunately, opening may result in liability suits later. Next slide. So some of the questions you got to ask yourself, are you ready to open? What have you assessed? Change to your employee hygiene practices. I saw the slide that Chris put up there and all the things that he's doing in his company, from hand washing and temperature checks when they reopen. For you, new personal protective equipment. Is it needed in your business? N95 masks or just cloth masks? What are you doing about cleaning and disinfecting of your premises? Again, I saw the chamber was going to do hourly cleanings. Changes to your floor plan for social distancing, and that's very different for every different business. But the things that you got to assess and think about: workspace. We have cubes. Do we have cubes with walls? Do we have cubes with no walls? Do we need to put up plexiglass? Do we need to space out our cubes? Are 6x6 cubes still acceptable? Break rooms, are you going to close them? Bathrooms, what are you going to do there? Visitors, are you going to allow visitors back and when? Conference rooms, customer barriers. You see that like at Publix and McDonald's and other people that put up plexiglass. Ventilation, opening windows, whatever that you can do to dilute the virus. And then directing customer traffic inside a facility. Publix now has the one ways and way people to go, but people don't always follow that either. And then staff training. So there's just a lot for you to assess in your business and what you're going to do to follow CDC guidelines and remain safe. Once you open, what are you going to monitor? Symptoms of employees. Every employer and every employee should know what the symptoms are. Again, the troubling thing and difficultness of this virus is not every person shows the symptoms of the virus. They may not know they're actually a carrier of it. That's a problem. You should have a plan should an employee show signs or contract COVID-19, and that could result in a workers' comp claim, isolation. They might test positive or they might test negative, but what's your plan? Are you ready for that? And then unfortunately, the last thing, are you prepared to close if there's a resurgence? Next slide. Oh, sorry, wait, one more thing. So go back to that slide. So I just bring all these things up. Are you ready? Because it's critical that you address these issues in safety. You need to alleviate the concerns of your employees. You need to be adaptable. You need to be flexible to them. Failure to do that, the consequences later could be employers' liability claims, from your employees because they got sick, or from their state because they died. Just today, I saw a letter came in to a manufacturer that one of their employees from OSHA, because one of their employees complained that they were not taking the right precautions. Right now, that didn't result in anything negative from OSHA as far as an inspection, but now you got OSHA looking at you, and that's not what you want. And then other things related to all this might result in ADA or other issues, EEOC. It's equally important that you address all this. You need to evidence to your consumers that you're providing a safe environment. I mentioned before, reputational damage, with Yelp and other things. You don't want to be the business that people are talking about that doesn't take any of the safety precautions. And by doing so and taking those steps, hopefully that'll restore some confidence, which will help you bring your sales back, and then also reduce your potential of a likelihood of a liability claim later. Next slide. So, every one of you is going to have to evaluate the risk to reward in this reopening. For those that do decide to reopen, risk mitigation steps need to be taken to protect your business. I realize restoring revenue, supply chain interruptions that are either here now or maybe here in the future, dealing with employment, getting your employees back. Those are probably your main concerns right now. But let's discuss the benefits of risk mitigation, and maybe that'll help you raise the priority of doing some of these steps. So some of the benefits that I see from it is, it reduces the chance of an employee or an invitee contracting the virus at your workplace. If you don't have an employee contract it, there's a lot of things you're not going to have to deal with, and that's going to also limit the chance of having a liability claim from a third party. Hopefully this will provide some confidence to the general public, and they'll want to return and do business with you. This will establish a guide for you to follow in the event the employee presents symptoms. It'll establish the basis for a defense from a liability suit if that were to happen. It'll illustrate your preparedness for a liability insurer. In the insurance marketplace, there are very few liability policies that exclude communicable disease or virus. But there are some, especially in healthcare settings. But a lot of insurance companies are asking questions about this. What are the plans? What do they have in place? And some of them it may come down to the point, it's still way too early, but it might happen where if you can't show that you have a plan, you may not get, you may have an exclusion in your policy. So that's another benefit. Obviously, compliance with state and federal laws. And then the last part, again, if everybody does this and we all work in concert together, hopefully we reduce the potential of another shutdown. Next slide. So just getting to the last kind of two slides here, what steps should you take? Everything starts with a written plan. You need a written communicable disease prevention and preparation plan. That's going to establish your procedures. That's going to give you the basis of what you communicate to your managers and employees of your procedures. That should include all the different required forms that you need to implement as a part of your plan, whether that's PPE, employee notification, EFMLA policies, everything that you need to have, that plan should have in it. And again, it should be written. Many businesses, as I've seen, have taken steps, but I'm not sure that most of them actually have them written or documented. And the problems with that, though, is that if something were to go wrong with either an employee or a patron, can you prove that your facilities were clean? Can you prove that your employees were trained? Can you prove that they got the needed personal protective equipment, whether they temperature screened, all that stuff? That adage of which, if it's not written, it didn't happen. So you need to have that written plan. You've got to evaluate the safety precautions, and every business here is different. What is the personal protective equipment that you need to put in place for your employees? Again, you need evidence that you gave it to them, that they have it, and then what operational changes do you need to make for social distancing and sanitation, and then record all that stuff. If the chamber says they're going to clean hourly, have a sheet that says we cleaned hourly. Have all your basis in preparation for if the worst were to happen. And then create a process to handle an employee who presents symptoms and wants to report either a workers' comp claim or a health claim, whatever it might be. You just need to have that process in place of what are you going to do. Next slide. So the last thing, and Candace is gonna bring it up here in a minute, is what we've created is a general industry readiness assessment. And we have other assessments for other industries, whether it might be manufacturing, retail, but this assessment's meant to be applied across any industry. It's short, it's 16 questions, and it's meant to help you assess your readiness. When you complete the assessment, we'll return it with a toolkit that will have links to help your business take all the precautionary steps and implement plans. It's not 100% turnkey. Every single one of you are going to have to look at it and adjust it for your own company. But again, it's pulled together all the different resources and plans and forms that you might need in this plan. These are the basics. So again, you're going to have to assess on your own. And again, the way that's brought up, or a way we can help you with this, is you need to contact a business navigator at the Chamber of Commerce. They will receive or send you the assessment. They will process the assessment, send it to us, and we'll send it back. As Chris mentioned before, we're providing this to community. We created this for the use of our clients, and we want to offer it to the community. That we're not charging for this. This is just a benefit that we want to put out to everybody. So Courtney or Candace, if you'll pull up the assessment. So like I said, it's very simple. It goes a little bit beyond just this risk mitigation we talked about and having some plans. We get into some questions related to safety. So questions 1 through 6 is all related to you having a prevention and response plan. Questions 7 through 14 get into some HR issues and some workers' comp. They all kind of intertwine into this process. And then the last question is just kind of to help you all with the liability, but protecting yourself from liability. But this is what you would get from the business navigators. And if you'll go to the next PDF. So this is what we'll return to you. Each of the questions that we asked, and then in red, what we showed to you is this is the reason for why you need to have it. And if you notice everything in blue, what that is that's a link to the resources that we're providing to you all. So we're on question 1, we're giving you a template for a written communicable disease plan, as well as checklists that you need to have. If you look at number 3 there, there's a form in there. So let's say that we have an employee who's infected. We need to notify the rest of our employees. There's a form in there. There is a template down here for the cleaning and the disinfection, temperature control, all these different PPE things and guidance that we've given to you. All those links are there for you to go and source on your own. And if you go to the last page of the assessment, page 7, you scroll down. So the assessment again asks the questions, and then for your benefit as well, there's on the final page, the same tools, the same links are just outlined here for every single one of them. So again, we have safety meeting attendance forms, topics, training brochures. If you're going to introduce chemicals, then you need to update your SDAs sheets. The FFCRA posters there, EFMLA language is there for emergency family medical leave. EPLSA is there. If you're changing employees, some of our questions having to do with workers' comp are there. If you're a drug-free workplace, there's resources to you continue your drug-free workplace with not having to send somebody to a lab for testing to get it done on site. There's guidance on OSHA. So again, all these different forms we've gathered and put together for the benefit of every employer. So I hope that you all have found this just brief and short basic presentation helpful. Again, we just want to offer to the community. I hope you'll take us up on that offer and you'll reach out to a business navigator for more assistance. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, John, first of all, I'm blown away. Thank you so much. That was very helpful as far as your intro, and then just watching that assessment, looking at it, that toolkit's pretty robust, and the resources you're offering to our members is certainly amazing. So first of all, I just want to say I appreciate it, because I know our navigators and anybody who's answering the call as we talk to these businesses, we want to make sure that we just give them the best information, the best guidance. And what you guys have assembled there obviously is the Cadillac of all that. And it's quite easy for people to get through it. It's not onerous. So if a business is kind of putting it off or trying to figure it out, now we've got the chance to do that. I see our first question is about just how do they go ahead and do this? How do I do it? So Candace, I'm going to ask you to bring back up that last, or the navigator slide. So when John says, yeah, contact the chamber, that's what you're doing, is contacting the navigators, and it's the chamber and all of our partners. So look on the screen now, should be coming up if you're watching. You've got a email, brt@growsmarterstpete.com. You have a phone number, 727-351-3249. And you have a website, growsmarterstpete.com/BRT. Those are 3 ways to get a hold of the entire BRT team. Just so you guys are aware, the business, that team is made up of chamber staff, of EDC staff, of greenhouse staff, and of Grow Smarter staff. So everybody has put it in, because if you think about it, we have to cover the entire community, every neighborhood, every district. So we've all come together to assist. We're going to use these same tools. And now with John's help, we can offer it to everybody the same way. Because when I showed you that open sign like that, and John mentioned it, building confidence about our community, the more and more of you that say, hey, I've got this, and that you promote that, the more and more others will see that that is the standard, the mode of how we're going to operate, and will follow suit. So we are trying to be leaders. We are trying to get those early adopters to help us understand how to communicate, but also just to make sure you have the tools. So I hope that answers that question on it. Does anybody have any other questions or comments or concerns? I know we nailed that as far as giving you what you need, and I know you probably are ready just to get that email sent out so that you can go ahead and do that. I know Kim and her team are ready and waiting for that, so they're responsive to it. But I'm going to give the chat, and if you have a question on the bottom of the screen, you can do that for us now, or a chat. And if not, I'm going to let it go for about a minute. And then if we don't have any questions, which is fine, we're going to disconnect this, but then we'll also post it on our website, so that if you or someone on your team needs to rewatch it, we'll have that for you. And then you can also share it with others on your team, or other businesses, or customers, or others that you'd want to make sure that they had this as well. Okay. So Matt, from our end, do we have any other questions?
Yes, Chris, we just got a question. Does HIPAA prevent names of employees identified as having the virus in an attempt to trace others, employees or clients, who may have come in contact with that person?
You know, I would probably defer this question to my labor attorney in-house. I know with EEOC, we can take temperature checks and stuff. But you know, some of this information that you're going to collect, you have to be very, very careful with. So I don't, unfortunately, Jennifer, if you want to reach out to the BRT and have that question brought to me again, I will be happy to talk with our HR attorney and try to get you an answer.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Jennifer. We need to get that more clear for everybody on that one. Any other questions or comments? Well, I appreciate, first of all, John, for W3, for what you guys have done for us since I've been around, and I know for a lot longer in this community. Thank you. This is an amazing, generous offer. For those 50-some members that are on the call right now, you just have one of your members providing their kind of secret sauce to you free so that you can eat your sandwich here today. And so I hope you pass that along. So if you have a skill set or a gift and you want to help us, please let us know how you can help us. If you just want to help your next door neighbor or that business next to you, please do that as well. That's what we're trying to build in this community, is that kind of camaraderie to get through this together. So John, thank you sincerely for stepping up and doing that. Thank you to my staff and our Navigator team for allowing us to do this. We're going to post this and we're going to get back to work, and we look forward to chatting with all of you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all.